Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we're making a chiropractic student connection out at Parker with Derian Johnson. Derian, can you kind of just get us started by sharing a little bit about what your background was before you went to chiropractic school and when that moment was that you decided you wanted to become a chiropractor? What was going on for you?
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure how many times I've told this story up to this point, but it's a pretty usual story, to be honest. I'm from Madison, Alabama. It's a suburb in northern Alabama, and it's such an interesting question because whenever you look back at somebody's personality throughout childhood, you can kind of see where they're going to go in their future. And for mine, I remember picking up this book, and in this book, it talked about the body's ability to heal naturally. And I remember being in Dallas airport talking to my aunt, and I was telling her how humans could live to 120, 130 years old, probably at 13, 14 years old. So really my chiropractic journey started out pretty young. But discovering that innate ability for the body to heal at such a young age was kind of my driving force all throughout school. So in my high school, I ended up getting into like a biomedical program. I was always studying anatomy. I had an interest in that. I played sports, and I was wrestling for a varsity spot my sophomore year of high school, and I ended up just getting dropped on. And I remember just the most excruciating pain in my entire life. I mean, I bawled for a good 15 minutes, and you got the coach yelling at you, telling you to suck it up, and just I could not. Shortly after that, I ended up going to about 2 or 3 months of physical therapy, and about 2 or 3 months later, I still couldn't tie my shoes. That's when I went to see my hometown chiropractor, and after one Thompson adjustment, I was cured. I was 100% better. I mean, just like unbelievable. And at that point, I was pretty much sold on chiropractic. Not in a professional sense, but just in its ability. So for the rest of my high school experience, anytime I wanted to miss class, anytime I wanted to skip school, things like that, I would always go to my chiropractor, and he'd always write me a note. So I ended up spending a lot of time there because I was somebody who didn't really like school. I didn't spend a lot of time in school. I always thought I was better off using my time in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my avenue to be able to get a little bit of time off. So I ended up finishing the biomedical program. I went and I shadowed orthopedic surgeons, heart surgeons, nurses, ER, things of all that nature. And I just never really was a fan of medicine. I thought that medicine had its place, but I knew that the body had an ability to heal. I knew that I didn't want to be giving drugs to people. So at that point, it left me with a couple of options. I was thinking about either orthopedic surgery, cosmetic surgery, or chiropractic. And at the time, again, these are like, I didn't realize these things at first, but I loved working with my hands. So I would always be working on cars, working on trucks, building things carpentry wise. I was a welder at the time, so I'd always weld things. And it's the culmination of all the things that I ever wanted in life. I wanted to be my own boss, have my own hours, be an entrepreneur, work with my hands, serve my community, and also provide holistic health. And it's just like all these different things that culminated together into the perfect ideal profession, which is chiropractic, because it's the vessel to be able to accomplish all those things that I was super passionate about in one package. Yeah, that's the rundown on the story.
Yeah, I love how you just touch on I was a welder and I was in a biomedical program and I was a wrestler, and all this comes together to make sense when you're trying to figure out what's the right path for you. And so if you could kind of just describe how things changed for you once you actually were in the process of being in college, completing the prerequisites, preparing yourself to go to chiropractic school, like maybe it was 6 months, maybe it was a year or 2 years, like how much time between the decision that you made to go to chiropractic school and actually arriving on campus, how much time went by, and what are some things that you did that were specific to your interests of becoming a chiropractor one day?
So I would say once I figured out my path, I wanted to find the easiest way to get through that. Because of my understanding of like the school system and colleges and things of that nature, it was always what is the quickest way for me to accomplish my goal. It wasn't necessarily me diving deep into the background or the major that I chose. So originally I was a biomedical major, but I realized I wanted to be a chiropractor, so I switched to kinesiology and exercise science. Because I was like, why am I going to spend hundreds of hours learning all this medical school stuff whenever, I can get all my prerequisites met with the kinesiology exercise science program and get a better understanding of biomechanics and human anatomy along the way. So I ended up going that route. And even in those courses, I was picking up on things and I was taking things in that I thought would be relevant to my future. And I was kind of just like leaving everything else to the side. And this is something that I've, been doing since I was much, much younger. And, it's even carried out throughout school now. But I would say while I was in school, something I got really good at was like my entrepreneurial abilities. So I would always find ways to make money on the side, whether that be like rebuilding boats, rebuilding trucks, selling four-wheelers. I was always finding ways to use my hands to get connected with people and sell them a product that they were interested in. And obviously this is going to translate later on whenever I'm opening up my practice and graduating. But as far as the understanding of like human anatomy, biomechanics, and prepping for chiropractic school, I just went through the general program and picked up on the things that I thought were necessary.
And can you kind of describe where you're at right now, how long you've been on that campus, sort of the trajectory that you've crafted for yourself, the path that you've chosen, that you've taken, maybe starting from when you arrived at chiropractic school and leading us up till present moment?
Yeah, I'd love to. So about right after I graduated college, I took about 4 months and I picked up a trade skill, which is welding, and I went and I worked in a factory. And I wanted to get used to waking up at 4 a.m, working 14-hour shifts, coming home covered in dirt, sleeping for 4 hours, waking up and doing it all over again. So I wanted to make sure that I had a backup plan in case this whole chiropractic thing never worked out. But it also taught me how to connect with people, like especially blue collar people. It also taught me, hard work, dedication, and things of that nature. But after that, in trimester 1 of school, I ended up working for UPS full time while also being in trimester 1. And I was still in Alabama at this point. And everything was online. So at the end of the day, I probably ended up spending a good 8 to 12 hours a week on school, all of trimester 1. Just because everything's online, it's way easier than being in person and taking exams in person and things like that. So even throughout then, I was just kind of coasting by, enjoying life, picking up on the things that I enjoyed, leaving things that I didn't think were necessary to the side. And then whenever I got to campus finally in trimester 2, I was lucky enough to have had a friend who was here in trimester 1, and he made a lot of connections on campus. And some of the connections he made, I got to be introduced to them as soon as I got to campus. And those connections were the people that would end up mentoring me. They were some of the delts in the fraternity that would end up putting me on a proper path and giving me an understanding of this thing that is chiropractic, which is much more obviously than just musculoskeletal issues and the things that we're taught and the things that is presented on the surface of chiropractic. And with that being said, I immediately, as soon as I got to campus, I was under mentorship. I was practicing, I was training, I was learning. Like every single thing I could have possibly done chiropractic wise, I was doing. I watched every single Tim Young YouTube video. I watched every single Brett Jones in the Moment. I watched every single adjusting flow on YouTube. I was looking up and reading everything about chiropractic I possibly could. I started diving into the green books. I mean, like, as soon as I got to school and I understand the bigness of our profession, I got obsessed, and the obsession has not stopped since.
Amazing. It's interesting to hear about how the fraternity was really able to focus you in on chiropractic. And obviously, it's such a small percentage of the student body that joins the fraternity. Obviously, you have to be a male. And obviously, there's like, what would you say percentage-wise out of the whole student body that ends up being in the fraternity? Is it like 1%, maybe 5%?
Yeah, I will say, just for clarification purposes, the Delta Sigma Chi Mu chapter is not affiliated with Parker University in any way, shape, or form. But we are a group of men who love chiropractic and stand up for straight specific chiropractic. But I would say out of all the students on nearby college campuses, it is probably, about 1%, if less, 0.05%. But also, we have a high standard for the quality of men that we bring in. You have to be a really good person. You have to stand up for all the right things. But I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to join an organization that is international and is worldwide and does support chiropractic, and the ability to be surrounded by men that have a common goal and an awareness of what is possible through chiropractic, not only in the profession itself, but also in the lifestyle that comes with it, was so great because, when I came in, I was like, I would love to see 100 people a week, and I'd love to make 200K a year. That was my awareness of what the peak chiropractor in the profession was doing. It wasn't until I started getting introduced through fraternity members to people like Tim Young, I started getting introduced to all these successful chiropractors. I was like, wait a second, you can work 22 hours a week, serve your community, see 800 people a week, have everyone in your community love you. You're providing a fantastic service that people want to get from you. And at the same time, you're able to live a lifestyle that is in support of an abundance of wealth and also abundance of time to spend with your family. It's just like, wow, my obsession just grew and grew and grew because my awareness of what is possible through chiropractic was opened up because of the people that I came in contact with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a third-party conversation. I mean, this is a third-party company that you're having a conversation with. I'm not affiliated with any chiropractic college per se, and I think it's important to put that out there because if we're being honest, there are parameters and boundaries that are maybe invisible, but nevertheless, they're well known that you don't necessarily have the freedom to speak openly about the importance of keeping chiropractic at the center of your focus at a chiropractic school, which should be delivering that to you, but not necessarily always. That's not the case most of the time. So the reason I asked you about the percentage of students that end up being in the fraternity is because I really want to speak to that other 95, 98, 99%. If you could kind of just touch on some of the aspects that you reflect on within yourself that really helped you remain inspired, helped you remain clear and focused, that obviously you're not going to bring us into the process that happened within the fraternity per se, but you can maybe share some of the elements that made your experience so consistent and you were able to stay focused and build semester to semester on your chiropractic skill sets, your chiropractic certainty, and your clarity.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to building that obsession, but that obsession needs to come from fascination and agreement with the things that you're learning about. So my fascination came from going to, an unbelievable amount of seminars and learning from tons and tons of doctors that have met this peak of chiropractic. And whenever, I was thinking about this the other day, but whenever you have all these different people, all these different successful people look at you and they're like, you can do this, you can handle this. You're going to be great. You're going to serve your community. Whenever you have that happen to you and it comes from somebody you see as an authority, you have no other option other than to get, passionate and get obsessed. And I went on my first mission trip in the middle of Tri-3. So I went on Dr. Peter Morgan's mission trips to Haiti. It is the most unbelievable experience that a student could ever possibly be a part of in their entire time in school or doctors after school. The amount of love that you see and witness due to the chiropractic adjustment inside of Haiti is unbelievable. And at that point, being in trimester, 3.5, going there and seeing that and being a part of that, it's it changes the trajectory of your life and your future in the profession. And I'll be going back on my 5th and 6th mission trip here in March and in April. I love what Dr. Peter Morgan does so much. And that was another pivotal moment in my chiropractic experience where it was like, wow, adjustments work and they help people and they make people happy. And it's whenever you see children laughing, you see moms with babies super happy, you see all these miracles happen that were so much more than my back hurts, before your eyes. Because it's one thing for people to talk about it, but it's another thing to see them and experience them right in front of your eyes. And you're like, whoa, once you see and once you have the awareness, you can't go back. You've seen too much, too much. Chiropractic can never be the same. It's never about the biomechanics anymore. Now it's about giving and receiving love and seeing what the removal of interference can do to a body that was made to heal. And it's just the most unbelievable feeling to witness that firsthand, especially so early on in the process of school, and then being able to tell everyone about it and be a part of that. It's just I'm so blessed to have been able to experience that so many times and to continue to experience that trip. Yeah. Had to talk about Dr. Peter Morgan.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We actually just had Peter Morgan on last week to describe the inception of the mission trips that he was doing to Haiti and where that came from. The root stories of that are unbelievable, and we'll post a link somewhere to listen to Peter Morgan's stories on how he started his mission trips, and he's trying to actually gain more traction or more attention from students. So sharing this message that you just shared with other students could maybe help him bring more students with him to have those life-changing experiences in Haiti. So thank you for that. I want to acknowledge that I was actually introduced to you through a friend of mine who teaches a seminar that's really a balance of adjusting and also communication and business skills and business development. And you talking with such passion about really the service, being in a state of service for these people at Haiti that have so little but so much love. They have so much but so little, right? And to be able to connect at a deep level with them, and then for you to come back and do seminars where you're learning professional business development skills. Can you talk about how important it is that a chiropractic student really balance their studies so that they're not just focused on one thing, but they're focused on the totality of the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the majority of students have like a blissful ignorance to the reality of chiropractic and how it works. And I think the best thing about Paul's seminar, and I always tell him this, in his part one, he'll break down how much debt you're in, how much interest you're going to owe after that, how much you'll make as an associate, how much money that the government will take from that associateship, and how much you're left with to feed your family, have an apartment, pay a car bill, pay your phone bill. And it's sad. I mean, like, if you do not understand business, if you take an associateship for 50, 60 grand, and you don't have anyone supporting you, I mean, you're living on like pennies. I mean, it is a sad, sad existence and sad reality that chiropractic students are just getting thrown into. But because nobody tells us that while we're in school, unless you have somebody like Paul be like, hey, you guys, you got to listen. Like, this is the reality of things. And without knowing that, you just have this blissful ignorance that I'll graduate, I'll get a job, they're going to pay me well, I'm going to learn exactly what I need to learn, and then I'll open up a business and be very successful. And unless you've like talked to people and you've seen people go out and be successes, and you've seen people also go out and fail, you have no idea of the reality of the situation. But you're so focused on school and focused on boards and focused on passing classes, getting through clinic, that you kind of just take that little bit of that knowledge and just put it to the back of your head to worry about later. Mm-hmm. And it is so, so, so important that you have a clinical hand, you have a artist, adjusting hand, and you also have like a businessman all at the same time. You have to have all three, because if you're expecting to open up a practice or be successful or have enough, money to feed your family and live a good life and all these things, then those are the three things that you really, really need to develop. And that's why I love Paul's seminar, because those are the three things that he brings into the situation. And it's the way he speaks is something to be admired. It's something to look up to, because depending on the level of faith and the level of confidence that you're able to project with the way you're speaking to people is whether or not they're going to come into your practice and sign up for care. And it's been really beautiful to experience that, me being in my first trimester of clinic, seeing how the way you speak to people is more important than the things you say. If that answered your question.
Absolutely. Can you speak to going to a seminar like that exposes you to so much, not just that one, but others that you've been to? How do you really digest those experiences? Can you talk about some of your reflections that you make, or any processes that you've developed for yourself, just because there's so much coming at you between the school curriculum and then the seminars? It can be a lot to organize. What are some strategies or ways that you remain connected to the things that are important and stay consistently connected to those things?
Yeah, so for me personally, if I'm doing okay, if I'm passing, I'm good. I don't care about the letter on the screen. I mean, I've never really had a hard time getting through courses. I kind of am able to pick up the things I need, use them, and then get rid of them. I just don't let myself get stressed out. And I think the biggest part of this is having a firm foundation in your philosophy and a firm image of what you want your future to look like. Because if you're constantly just taking the punches and you have no idea why you're taking the punches, you're going to get worn out. You're going to get dragged down. You're not going to want to get up and study. You're not going to want to get up and train. You're not going to want to do any of that. But whenever you wake up and you have this like obsession and this passion and this fire for what you want your future to be, it's hard, but it's easy. to do all the things that you're talking about is every single time something comes in, I just take care of it. So I have to text this person. I need to email this person. I need to call this place. I need to do this assignment. I need to teach this thing. I need to read this book. I need to go through this program. And I just do it and do it and do it and do it. And I don't stop. And I never run out of fuel because I'm so excited for what the future holds. And I understand the process of what it takes to have a future like that. And I'm just knocking out all the steps that are required. So I would definitely say the first step is get obsessed, get passionate, or find a way to get obsessed and get passionate. The things I would advise to do that is talk to successful doctors or people you want to emulate in the future, go on mission trips, do things like that, and learn what is possible for your life and through chiropractic. And then once you do that, everything else becomes easier. Other than that, having a good support system, obviously, if friends that are in the same trimester or people that have similar or common goals to you, whenever your standard is set so high, you have to uphold that standard. It's like, if one of us is failing, we look at everybody else and everybody else is super successful, we're automatically going to want to be like our peers. So just like surrounding yourself with people that are also passionate and want the same kind of future that you want would be the next step. Other than that, yeah, just buckle down and do it because it's a finite amount of time and it goes quick. In trimester 2, trimester 3, I would have had no idea. I'm already in trimester 8, seeing patients in the clinic, going to be opening up a practice in 10, 11 months. It goes by so quick.
What's the level of commitment that it's taken for you to elevate your skills? Obviously, school requires a certain amount of energy, time spent. How would you describe the amount of deliberate practice that is required for you to elevate your skills so that you can go on a mission trip, so that you can speak with authority, so that you can really just look back and be like, wow, I've come really far? Because we're really trying to lift up other students. It seems like you're full. Your cup is full. It's almost like overflowing with joy, excitement. You're living a life of abundance, it sounds like, or at least your mindset is reflective of that.
Yes,
but you look around yourself at the school and the campus, and there's a lot of people that are either lost or confused, or they're not focused. They haven't committed themselves to any clubs and gone deep. They haven't focused on training their skill set. Like, how can we build these people up? Obviously, empathy is key. Obviously, asking questions and being curious and showing them that we care about them is key. But what can you kind of share with them of like, this is how it starts, this is how it builds, this is how we stay connected to one thing long enough to be able to go far on this journey of chiropractic school, where you get to clinic and you have some value to share, or that you have value in your hands, your heart, your mind. Can you kind of just expand on some of the things that I was just talking about?
Yeah, so I would say definitely mentorship is the biggest thing. And the earlier you start the mentorship, the better. Because how school, at least from what I've seen, how school normally works is early on you kind of get pulled in different directions and you don't really know what your path is in school. And every single person's path is different. And for whatever truth that they want to follow, they're more than welcome to follow their truth. But the earlier that the students are able to receive different forms of chiropractic and a different message of chiropractic, the better. So like with pre-chiro, I love that, right? Because if students are able to understand the bigness of chiropractic before they even get into chiropractic school, then they're set. But if it gets to try 5, try 6, and all they've ever done is exactly what is presented to them, then they're missing out on a giant opportunity and a giant amount of time for growth. Where yes, they're spending all their time like understanding the sciences, understanding their clinical skills, learning everything that's necessary to pass boards. What they're missing out of is the art and the philosophy, at least for the most part. And whenever you start training those things and learning those things in trimester 5, trimester 6, you're getting into trimester 7, you're an FSA, you're adjusting people when things aren't moving, bones aren't moving, and you just get kind of nervous, you get scared. I know some people kind of don't really like to adjust or like to put it off because they don't feel confident or good in it, but it's not their fault, right? Because the amount of opportunities that have been presented to be able to train those things are limited. And not everybody takes all those opportunities because they're very busy with school and making sure that they maintain their grades. That way, all this money they're putting in ends up being fruitful and turns into something. So it's definitely tough whenever you get later on and you haven't had the opportunities to train or go on mission trips to expand your knowledge on chiropractic. But there's definitely still time. But 100%, the best thing that students can do, the best thing that doctors can do is just give back to students, especially earlier on in the program. Like just mentor, find a group of students, teach them something, talk to students. I mean, that's what I'm all about is I love mentorship. I do. I love it to
So
death.
just to expand your context of what's possible, I believe that we need to ask new questions, right? So some of these new possibilities are that you've got pre-chiro mentors that are actually chiropractic students that can share with them, hey, I'm 10 steps ahead of where you're at as far as having applied, gotten in, enrolled, moved to the campus, gotten settled, gotten into my sort of sub-community and developed some clarity as to what my challenges were, what my obstacles were, how I overcame them. I can share from experience ways that you can maybe have a little easier time on your path. So if you were talking to a pre-chiro student, what are some of the topics that you might want to talk to them about before they get to campus, so that when they get to campus, they have this clarity and they might feel more supported along the way?
Yeah. So I've had this experience a couple of times now where I've met people in pre-DC and I'm like, dude, as soon as you get here, I got you. Like, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. I'm going to tell you all the things you need to do. I'm going to help you in any way I ever possibly could. Just because that's the same love that was, given to me when I was in their shoes, when I was in Tri 2. And that's what happened is I started texting them like, hey, start watching these videos, start watching these speakers, start watching these adjustment videos. These are the things you can watch. You can watch Sid Williams at Assembly. You can watch Reggie Gold's The Great Debate. There's all these things I can start picking up on. Then when I get to school, I'm like, hey, come to Philosophy Club, go to Open Adjust, and we can like show you a couple of things. It's like starting them off early and preparing them for what is to come. It's like I give them a step-by-step, like, hey, these are the things you should be looking into. These are the things that have really helped me. Whenever it comes to school, just understand that if 100 people go to chiropractic school and 70 make it through, or there's like a 70 or 80% graduation rate, that means that more than likely you're going to pass all your classes, and more than likely you're going to succeed. There's no reason to be scared. There's no reason to fret. The vast majority of people that come into chiropractic school make it through chiropractic school. And if you're passionate about it and you're obsessed with it and you love it, that's, that number probably goes up to 99%. And it's just like, don't worry about the unknown, because everybody before you has done it and everybody after you will also do it. There's no point in worrying about the unknown. Just take it as it comes. You're going to pass boards. You're going to pass your classes. You might fail a couple practicals. You're going to end up passing the class. Even if you don't pass the class, you'll pass it next time. Like it's been a story that's been going on since the dawn of chiropractic school. And every chiropractor that has ever been a chiropractor has done everything that we're doing right now. So there's nothing to worry about. But yeah.
So what's your vision after school? Like, how are you preparing yourself now that you're in clinic? What are some advice that you've been given or that you would give and pass on to other students that are in clinic, right? Like in my mind, there's this shift from you being a chiropractic student to you being a student chiropractor. And that happens when you start seeing yourself as a chiropractor and stop seeing yourself just as a student. And when you go out into your community, you're actually sharing the message, you're connecting with people, you're a chiropractor and you're practicing in your clinic at the school. Can you kind of just share what that experience has been like, some of the highlights and some good advice you've been given as far as ways to make that as real life as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So from trimester 2, trimester 3, every single time I got brought up, I would always tell myself, yeah, I'm going to crush it in clinic. Because the more you tell yourself these things, the more and more likely that the universe is to provide you that. It's like one of my favorite Parker principles is, what the universe, or what I see in the universe sees in me. James Parker is probably one of my all-time favorite chiropractors. but it's literally whatever you put out into the universe will give back to you. So the more and more you tell yourself, like, you're going to get through school is going to be easy, you're going to crush it in clinic, you're going to communicate how you're supposed to, the more and more these opportunities present themselves to practice these skills before you're actually put into those situations. So thankfully, you know, I've been through Paul's seminars, I'd talked chiropractic to hundreds of people. You know, anytime I go anywhere, I make sure people know I'm a chiropractor and I at least say one or two things about chiropractic. But that practice over time is what leads you to be able to communicate things in layman's terms. And it leads you to be able to speak with faith and speak with authority, which is then, you know, taken in and is very, like, people are very receptive to it. So as far as advice for that goes, is start communicating the philosophy now, start talking about the chiropractic adjustment now, you know, start telling people why chiropractic is important, start telling people like how chiropractic can help them, start learning how to ask people questions, that which then leads them into deeper conversations on what you can do for them. And then the first thing I did whenever I got into clinic is I was like, I got to figure out how to get as many people in here as humanly, physically possible. So just learn all the systems that you need to learn them really, really well. And then the week before I was cleared to see external patients, what I did is I went on Canva and I learned how to use Canva, and I made a sign. The sign said chiropractic for athletes. I just listed a couple of stats. And I made another sign that said, ask us chiropractic questions. And then I called every single place nearby that could possibly have a chiropractor speak to their, you know, their teachers, their students, their firefighters, their gym members. And finally I got a call back and they're like, yeah, sure, come in from these times to these times. So I bought my own little poster stand. I bought a white table. I brought a spine. I printed out my flyers. I got them laminated. I put up my sign that said, ask us about chiropractic. And sure enough, you know, from that interaction, we ended up getting like 24 people's contact information. Out of those 24, you know, 5 probably ended up coming into the clinic to see me. And then before then, I had contacts from previous conversations with people about chiropractic. So going into the clinic, I'm 1 week into seeing external patients, and we've knocked out, you know, almost the entire external service count for the entire trimester. So it's just like, whenever you do these things over and over and over again, and whenever you start building up, I don't want to say a clientele base, but you start building up relationships with people and you start talking to them about chiropractic, whenever the time comes to get into clinic, like you've already done report of findings. You've already talked to people about chiropractic. You've already, you know, it's just natural. It flows. And then you're able to just adjust people and see how they respond, which is very, very well. If you have, you know, the faith, confidence, and belief in your product, services, and ideas, you blow people's minds. You know, they come in and they're like, I just slept 10 hours. I don't know what kind of spell you just put on me. You know what I mean? They're like, my digestion is great. You know, and obviously we're not writing these things down because they're not something that we treat, because we don't really treat anything, but it's beautiful what the body is able to accomplish whenever interference is removed. People come to you and they tell you all these things, are just like, they're in love with chiropractic and they can't wait to come back. And yeah, so far I've loved every second of clinic, and it has been unbelievable compared to the 7 trimesters of schooling that we've been through. But it has just been, call this place, do this thing, talk to these people, go to this place. But, you know, it's the practice, and it's the practice on somebody else's dime, which is not afforded to you at any other point in time. So you better get used to get used to talking to people now, get used to people saying no to you now. That way, whenever you're ready to open up and practice, you've already done it. And it's the same thing as what you were prepping for clinic, but now you're in clinic prepping for when you open your doors. And it's just my assumption that these things will carry forward, and it will lead to an early on successful practice that will be serving my community, and that will lead to, you know, that abundant lifestyle that I think a lot of us are looking for.
Just to throw a little bit of a curveball, what are some of your inner challenges that you're facing these days, or have faced since you've been at school? Any adversity, any things that are within that you've been kind of sort of some inner struggles, or inner judgment, or limited beliefs? Is there anything specific that sticks out to you that you've had to really battle with, or that you've had to really face since you've been in school?
Yeah. So not to get too deep, but my father ended up passing away right before trimester 4, which is the hardest trimester in all of school. So that from that came a really beautiful chiropractic story. And that's why I have this thumbprint tattooed on my atlas. It's actually my father's thumbprint, and it ties into that story. But yeah, that was definitely a really hard part. That left me orphaned. So it's just me and my aunt and my brother, and that takes up my entire family. So that's definitely like the hardest thing I've had to deal with being in chiropractic school, is just being able to turn into a provider and someone that can, serve themselves and others for the future. It's just like all this work is culminating to provide for my family in the future, because that's something I have a lack of now. But other than that, I would say some of my biggest struggles in school is just going through the program and hearing things I don't agree with constantly, and just taking them in and writing them down and putting, filling in the check on the test bank, even though it's not something I agree with. And, that's the thing is it's just like jumping through the hoops that you have to jump through, because whenever you're practicing, you can do what you want in your practice. But whenever you're at an establishment or an institution where they have certain like laws and requirements and, board exams, the way board exams are, you got to do what you got to do. And, I'm very thankful at the same time for an institution that does prepare you well to pass board exams, because without passing those, obviously, you wouldn't be able to be a licensed practicing chiropractor. So definitely being able to keep my head down and not always speak my mind all the time, which that probably has been the biggest struggle for me. But also being able to speak my truth in a respectful way. Just being able to level with people and find common ground when it comes to chiropractic. And then other than that, I feel like, school honestly it hasn't been that bad. It's probably been the best time of my life, because you're finally connected to people that have a common goal and mission. I don't think I've ever found another, I guess, demographic of people that have had as much love in their heart as chiropractors do. It's just like the amount of love that is constantly surrounding me and the people around me is just so abundant all the time. It's like chiropractic school is such a blessing. If you make it that, it can either be like, some of the best years of your life or some of the worst years on your life, depending on like your perspective and your outlook. And yeah, those are definitely some of the things that I've struggled with personally. But I think that I'm, very thankful for those struggles and those things that I've had to persevere through, because they're only preparations to carry the heavier loads of the future.
Wow. All right. So thank you for going there. I appreciate it. Yeah. Without getting too deep, when I was in my senior year of chiropractic school, my best friend passed away unexpectedly. And I had a bunch of tests that same week, and life you can't really pause what's going on in the professional path that you've chosen. Your chiropractic school just keeps coming at you, and you have to process. And not to ever draw parallels to who was my brother or your father, but when you're in practice, you could get injured and still have to be at practice, or you could be super sick and try and have to adapt and figure out how you're going to practice. There's so many sticky situations. I'm not comparing it to your story or to my story, but there are parallels to how life throws things at you that add layers of complexity to your scenario, to your experience. But as a chiropractor, you're always solution oriented. You're always thinking about, how can I adapt? How can I make it through in the most wholesome way possible? So I appreciate you turning that story into one where you were growing and you were expanding your consciousness just through the adversity, through the tough. Yeah, being in school, for you to be able to talk about the way you're talking about school is it's a breath of fresh air. I recently started teaching at Life West, and there's always certain people that have more light coming out of them, that are emanating from them, and I see that in you. So anyway, can we kind of just wrap up by you either reflecting back to what I just shared with you, or you just sharing something that you want to share to any students that are out there listening, to just anybody who's listening?
Yeah, man. First of all, I'd just like to say I'm so thankful for the opportunity to come on here and speak. I don't know if anyone's going to get anything good out of this, but if you do, just please feel free to reach out to me either on like Facebook or anything like that. If there's any students or pre-Chiros that are interested in getting any information on how to go through school, like please reach out to me. Yeah, dude, I've just been so thankful for this entire experience that school has been, that chiropractic has been, that life has been. And I think you develop a certain amount of personal growth in chiropractic school that is just unparalleled to any other point in your life, just because of the amount of like philosophy and abundance of love that you're constantly surrounded by. You know, if I were to look back at, you know, undergraduate me or high school me compared to me now, it's just like I'm a completely different person in all the best ways, you know. And like you know, it only ended up that way because of all the people that were reaching hands back down to support other people. You know, it's only because of those upper trimester students that reach their hands back down to the lower trimester students to bring them up. You know, it's only because there's Tim Youngs and Paulo Feelys and Peter Morgans and Henry Rosenbaums and just like, you know, there's all these chiropractors, you know, Christina Stitcher, just all these monumental figures that I've listened to and I've had conversations with and still have that passion about chiropractic. And, you know, it literally beams from them into other people. It literally shoots from them into other people. And whenever you have those people that are just, you know, beaming all this love and all this excitement and all this fire for chiropractic into you, it's just you get obsessed with it and you love it and you can't wait to talk about it and you can't wait to speak about it. And then you end up doing the same thing for other people, like inadvertently. It just comes naturally. And all of chiropractic school, everything should just flow naturally. You know, it should be hard at times, it should be easy at times, but if you're really truly doing what you love, then it's the best time in the world. You know, I've loved it, and I can't wait to, you know, open up in the future and be able to serve my community and fulfill these images that I've had for, you know, a long time. But yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, if anybody needs like literally anything at all, I would be more than happy to help with anything that I ever possibly could.
No, I appreciate it. That's pretty much a wrap. Is there any questions you have of me, of anything that I could support you with? Is there anything that you would like to rattle off to some of those lower quarter students or lower tri students of resources that have really been powerful that you want them to go check out, of any specific podcasts or channels or books or anything that you would love to share?
Yeah, I would say that Sid Williams at Assembly, Reggie Gold's a great chiropractic debate. Those are the two best places to start. I really hope that what you're doing picks up a lot of traction and it will be seen by a lot of students coming up here in the future. Students or pre-students, if you have the opportunity, I would very highly recommend to go to Focus OKC and go see Dr. Tim Young speak and all the other chiropractic giants speak. If you're in school, I would highly recommend you get in contact with Dr. Peter Morgan or go to chiromissions.com and look at some of the mission trips that are available, become a part of that. Other than that, I'm good to go. Just thank you for what you do. I hope this continues to grow. It gets bigger, and a lot of students get a lot of clarity and a lot of excitement from chiropractic because of the work that you're putting in.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Of course.